A little bit more on that. The axing is announced. The American owners flew to New Zealand. They asked to see all of the staff this morning at 11 a.m. The Auckland staff were all congregated in the one building. All others who work for Newshub were on Zoom. And if you remember rightly, when they axed the project, remember the 7 p.m. news and current affairs show? That I never watched it. It was a bit puerile for me, to be honest with you. But nevertheless, when they act that, they said, listen, we'll be getting into other stuff. And a new show was expected to replace the project, hosted by the former AM show, Ryan Bridge. He's actually quite a good presenter. But that will obviously not be happening. And it is still a question as to what TV3 will look like, if it will look like anything, I would assume. Our founder, and of course one of the founding members, I think, of TV3, is Sean Plunket. Sean joins us now. Sean, are you in the studio?
Yeah, I am, mate. I am, yeah.
What's your reaction to this?
Well, firstly, I've got to say it's an emotional one. November 1989. And I was recruited by a guy called Rod Pedersen to be one of the first reporters on TV3 News, which was the new TV3 channel. And it was full of optimism, and I guess at times it's delivered on that optimism. But broadcasting is an incredibly tough game. I know many of the people who are going to be affected today, and some of them I would probably still call me their friends. And collegially, you just got to feel for the people initially. But I think also it is reflective of the news industry and a failure, to be honest, to adapt to audience. I actually think they did pretty well digitalisation. They were always under Hal, under everyone they've had, and Sarah Bristow, they have been a good, I think, despite all the wokeness surrounding them, they've been a pretty good news operation. And Mark Jennings ran it for a long, long time. But you cannot not be adaptive. And I think the problem was editorially they weren't adaptive. And let's be frank here, Michael, the gravy train of government funding is over. And I think the investors looked at that and said, we cannot afford to have a news service if it's not being propped up by a government. And they took the money and they compromised their editorial stands, and that is the harsh reality of the world. So, I'm still processing it, to be honest. I guess personally I feel that it was already history to me, and it's now become history. Journalists and skilled broadcasters just got a lot cheaper, would be my observation as well, and that's the market that we work in. But there we go. Tough old world. I mean, what do you think? What have you thought of TV3 News over the years? You and I had a run-in when I was working there. Remember?
Yeah, we did. Well, I've forgiven you for that. I'm sorry, I can't hold a grudge that long. I'd love to be able to.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
But no. Obviously, we don't. No, the thing that I'm asking the question of is the American owners have come in. They're saying, right, you're going to close at the end of June, so it's obviously an orderly transition to get to there. But I'm not sure what they intend to do with TV3. Now, they're closing Newshub, which is the
news and current affairs arm. Yeah,
that's right. But what are they going to do with TV3? Is TV3 going to have any news?
Well, that's a really interesting question, Michael. Do they look, broadcasting, why broadcast live? And this is part of how we built the platform. Why spend all that money on transmission and everything when everyone's getting it off their phone or through the internet? So I don't know that TV3, which is now Discovery Channel, really has a business model or a rationale anymore. And I think there are bigger questions to be asked. I'll tell you one thing it does do, though they were never, in recent years, they haven't competed with TVNZ. They've all had conversations with each other about how the news should be covered and what the woke consensus is. But it removes competition and a player from the New Zealand news media market, and competition, I think, leads to improved output.
Well, Yeah, but the other thing here, though, just quietly between you and me, is once this happens, television news, state-funded broadcaster Radio New Zealand news, actually becomes more dominant in the mainstream media market.
Absolutely, and we have organisations in RNZ and TVNZ which I think have major structural problems in terms of their ethos and the way they operate and their independence from the last government, most certainly. So big questions have to be asked. But the truth is, Michael, in the media market, the world has changed, and it will be full of small to medium players who people consume at their will. There are going to be no 64,000-pound gorillas or Mike Holmes or Paul Holmeses.
Yeah.
And even I would say ZB's dominance is going to change as consumption patterns change. So I don't know. I also am not sure, and I'll have to check. I think there is an obligation on someone who runs a broadcasting television service to provide a news service, right?
Is there?
Yep, there is a statutory obligation. If you're going to get a licence,
I see.
You have to provide some news and current affairs. Now, what do? They contract that in from outside, from ZB or from TVNZ, so do we get a one-size-fits-all? Or do they simply, to be honest, what would I do? I don't know their figures. I know the people from America are only interested in the figures, not in New Zealand or New Zealand's media landscape, and they never have been. Maybe they say we pull the terrestrial broadcasting and we just use it as a distribution channel for Discovery product, right?
That's where I'd head. If you're making a pure commercial, I mean, news isn't going to, and current affairs is not going to make you any money. Yeah. It is a consumer. Isn't it?
We're trying, Michael.
Well, no. Well, no. Yeah, but we're not going out there every day, are we, and finding new news? I mean, we are.
We are going out there every day and finding new things to talk about and maintaining a local conversation. Yeah. And I'll be honest, part of me says this is good for the platform. We're already killing it in some ways, and this creates more opportunity. And I'll be honest, as we look to expand, there are some good people there.
I was just going to say.
Who I'd love to have on board. But look, primarily just people will be gutted. And I've been there when it was the shares crashed to 5 cents and everyone thought the plug was going to be pulled. And, I guess then, way back then, which is 30 years ago or more, we were still fresh and it was still great to be rebels and everything. But, I hate to say it, go woke, go broke.
Well, can I just read what Glenn Kine, who is the Senior Vice President, the Head of Networks at Warner Brothers Discovery, has just put out this morning in a statement. And there's a couple of sentences here that will intrigue you. He said, every time we think we've landed on a stable footing, something comes along and makes it unstable again, forcing us to look at ways of further reducing costs. We've now reached a stage where any further reduction in costs means proposing major changes. And this is why we are proposing to shut down the newsroom. This would mean stopping all news production, including the Newshub website, from June 30. If implemented, the proposal would be a significant change to our new operations, New Zealand operations. Warner Brothers Discovery would be committed to retaining a local presence, albeit with a much smaller operating model and lower cost base.
Sounds like the end of TV, what we call TV3.
Yeah,
That's
it does,
sounds like, mate.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
And that's all right. A market will provide and technology will provide something new, but I get the feeling it's a bit of an end of an era. And I would say just personally, to Paddy, to Mike McRoberts, to everyone I know there, God, I feel for you. But give me a ring. We might have a slot for you.
It's an ill wind. It's an ill wind.
That's right. Hey, look, thanks. And look, I'm really interested to see how the conversation you have with people develops this afternoon, but it is big news. Thank you very and God, can I also say this to Mark Jennings, who I've had a bit of a contretemps with over the last couple of days. I know that Mark, because he was head of news for a long time, he took over from the guy who hired me, Rod Pedersen, I know that he'll be feeling this too, and I'd like to say to Mark, boy, what a ride we've had.
Yes, well, it's not over yet. It's still a long way to the bottom.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sean. Nice to talk to you, mate. Okay, just a little bit more on this issue too. Newshub is closing down. They are, if you just listen to what I've said, you will see that they, and he goes on to actually emphasise that, and you might, Sean, if you're still listening, Kine goes on to say, we know that Newshub has been such an important and central part of TV3 since day one, and is a crucial part of a functioning media sector in New Zealand. We also know that New Zealanders have come to love our local shows, from Dancing with the Stars, which was originally TVNZ, I have to say, to the Block NZ to Black Coast Vanishings. And then this is the kicker. Free to air and news are expensive businesses to run. Put simply, the economic headwinds means the returns are not there. These proposed changes will be hard if they're implemented, but we think they're necessary, which is why we've commenced consultation. And the consultation process starts from the middle of next month, with a final decision expected in early April. Listen, it's just a process they've got to go through to fit New Zealand law. The changes will take effect from the 30th of June 2024. It's pretty obvious. Americans are hardball players, you know, particularly in business, and Warner Brothers Discovery. Oh my God, you do not want to be on the wrong side of them. The New Zealand newsroom at TV3 is goodbye, see you later. And Caitlin Cherry, who is the Wellington Newshub Bureau Chief, is saying on her Lincoln site, so the news is out, there's a proposal to close Newshub at the end of June. It's very sad, a lot of pretty devastated staff. Oh yeah, there will be. And it'll be interesting to see if they actually put out a story tonight. You remember, right? Remember today FM? Walked out, wouldn't come back, bye-bye, see you later. And somebody says, do we get the PI Public Interest Journalism Fund money back from them? No, Paul. That's a fair question, though, from you, Paul. From Waikato. That money's gone. It went to prop up an American business and American shareholders. So there you go.